Okay, this is a short video on how to open and access Access and then how to print to a file. So first off, if you've never used Access, the first thing that you want to do is if you're trying to open it from your home computer, you go to the Start button on the bottom left. It usually is not going to be one of the first items on your menu, so you're going to go down to Programs, click on Programs, then it should fall under Microsoft Office. Click on that and then open Excel or Access on your computer. Yours will say 2013. This is my home computer, so it says 2016. If you're going to open a blank database, which you will need to do on a couple occasions, you will double click it. There's your database. I highly suggest the very first thing you do is then come up, save it, save the database as, and it depends on where you want to save it. Right now I'm saving it up at the top. You can see where it says where I'm saving it to. You want to make sure that you save it to something that makes sense to you. That doesn't make sense to me, so I'm going to change the location and I'm going to save as. I'm going to save it to my desktop and call it Test, and then I hit Save. Now you can see up at the top it is called Test. Depending on your computer system, you may or may not have to enable the content. So now I have a plain blank database. I would go over to the top on the menu bar, and so you can see my cursor is making things shade. I went to the Create tab. The very first thing you would do is create a table. That's a blank database. That would be your first steps, and then the book would walk you through the rest of the steps. Now, to open an existing table, I would, as I mentioned in the orientation video, you will always be given those. So let's go ahead and go into your assignments. Week 1, I'm going to open the Trader database, which is right here under Hands-On 1. Right here, I'm going to open that database. So when I click on it, it's going to put it down at the bottom as we talked about before. So once it does that, it's going to save it under your downloads. I would highly recommend the first thing you do when you get in here is save it someplace. You might want to create a file or a folder on your flash drive or on your desktop so all your databases go somewhere. I'm then going to open the database. Again, mine asked me to enable the content. I'm going to go and save it. And I'm going to save it to the same place I saved my last one. You can leave it named as the database 01H1 Traders, or you can add your name to it. When I save it, I then have to enable the content again. Here is my database. So now you'd be able to go through the book step by step. Again, even though you're doing only the 5 printouts for this one, you will go in and you will do every step, because at the end of each hands-on, at the end of each homework, you will attach these 5 printouts. In addition, you will attach the database. So I always tell you how many attachments you need to have at the end. So let's go ahead and show you how to do these print screens. So it tells me to attach hands-on step 2 1E. Well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go ahead and open the solution so you can get a little heads up here. Chapter 2, hands-on. And we're going to look at I'm going to look at page 95 in the book. And the first, if you look at, it says the first printout it wants is from hands-on number 2. So if I go to hands-on number 2, that starts on page 106, and it wants step 1E. So at the bottom of page 1E, it wants us to sort and filter the customer table. So let's go to the customer table. That's this right here. If you look at the cursor, it's highlighting customer table. This is the customer table. All I did to access that is I double clicked on the customer table. and it wants me to sort and filter on this city. I don't think I'm in the right exercise. Oh, I brought up bank. I apologize. Let me open a different database. I'm supposed to be in traders. There we go. I was in chapter 2. Now I'll still open up the same customers. Double click. It wants me to go to the city, and it wants to do a filter on the city. So I'm going to move over here. To do a filter, as an FYI, you highlight the column by clicking on it. You come up and click the filter button. And then look, it drops down all these different options. So we want the filter to equal only London. I'm going to hit select. And there we go. So how do I do this and prepare a printout that goes only to the file? Now there are 2 different ways. These ways are in your syllabus. The quick and easy way is if you come up to your external data tab at the top, which is what I just clicked on. If you follow my mouse up at the top, draw your little arrow. This is what I clicked on, external data, which brought me to this tab. Then I can click over here. You can save to Excel, text file, XML, or PDF XPS. You want the PDF XPS. You click on it. Tells you a second. It doesn't like you, so it doesn't do anything. There it goes. Well, that one's not working with 2016, so let's try the other way. The way that I usually do it is I will come into print, and then you will see 2 options that I don't recommend quick print. I recommend print or preview. If you come into print, this is the screen you will get. You are going to do the drop down, and then you will have a couple options. With this being 2016 new computer, I have the option of XPS or OneNote. You should also have the option up at the top. You see Adobe PDF. I prefer the PDF or XPS, so this one or this one. If you don't have those 2 and you only have OneNote, then that is fine. But if you have the option of XPS or PDF, please select PDF. Then you say OK. It does take a second. Now at the bottom, if you look, we got a flashing file. Click on that file. It's going to say, where do you want to save it? So again, hopefully you created a file to put this all in. I'm going to save it where I saved my database. Save it as customers. And there you go. Now it is saved as a file. However, I want you to look at something. Look at this file. It goes over 3 pages. We could have corrected that by doing this. File, print, print preview. Now we can see by paging at the bottom that that's not a good view. So if we come up here to at the very top, just like when we're printing anything else to a file, we select landscape. Now we still have 2 pages, but it's much better. So now I do file. You can print directly in here. It's going to go to PDF. I'm going to call it the same thing. I'm going to replace it. And then at the bottom it pops it up. Now it looks much better. Now a couple things I look for in these printouts. Number 1, I want to see everything in these columns. If I can't see it, then you need to make the columns bigger. Well, how do you do that? Get out of print. Go back into your database. And let's say this was look like that. You expand it just like you do Excel. Make them big enough so that you can see all the data. So if you look over here at Rio de Janeiro, it's very close. You could make that file line a little bit bigger by just taking your cursor up to the top. Make it look like an X, which unfortunately you can't see this in the video. It doesn't come through, unfortunately, for Access, but it expands just like it does in Excel. So there's my PDF right there. Let me show you something else. It's for the next chapter, but why we get in here. Forms are printed a little bit differently. I got to find the right form to do this in. Let's see how this one looks. Okay, so when I did a print preview, this is what this form looks like. Now, if I blow this up for you, and I were to print this to a file, it doesn't necessarily make it that readable. So one of the things that I like to see when you print to a file for a form is I'd like to see one form, so just this form on a page. I don't want to see it look like, oops. I don't want to see it look like this print preview. So how do you make it different? You come in here, you do print, and you do, I'm in print preview, can't be in print preview. In order to do a form, you cannot be in print preview. You do print, print, and then say selected record. So you got to do this right here. Selected record. That's going to print one form. That's it, one form. Then I say OK. I didn't change my printer. Let's try that again. You're going to do print, selected record. Make sure you change it to PDF. That's going to ask what I want. I'm going to call it products form. Then if I come down to the bottom, there's my products form. Notice how this one only has one form on the page. Much easier to read. So now if we go back over to Blackboard and we're in the hands-on exercise, remember you got to click on the black words that say hands-on. And now we come down to browse my computer. If I go to my desktop, here's the two PDF files that I created at the top, and here's my database. So I'd attach one, I'd attach two, and I'd attach my database. That is how you print to a file for both a table and then also for a form. So this video will remain up online. Hopefully you'll be able to go back and take a look at it when you're trying to do a form and printing to a file. So when you're done, what you see here, you would still have 3 more attachments. I showed you how to do step 1E. You would then go in, continue on with step hands-on number 2 till you get to 3K, 4J, step 3, 2K, and 3D, and finish out the database. When you're in Access, all you need to do is close the database and you're done. There's no extra saving that you need to do. Make sure you upload it, come down, and then hit save. Please let me know if you have any questions.